Alright, very good. So we're going to open up another file now, the exercise 7B file, and we're going to do a little bit more work with arrays. So go find where your file has been downloaded to. It should be in your exercise folder. And it's exercise 7B array. And when it opens up, we see that the Star Wars fans can rejoice. So we have the opportunity to make a few arrays here, and you'll be sending me this, providing me a copy of it. So our first project, I have a single X-Wing fighter, and we have the Death Star looming overhead. I would like you to take that single X-Wing fighter and turn it into a rectangular array. Don't move the original. Keep a 300 by 300 spacing between, and see how many we can take from that corner to fill up the area between here and the Death Star. Our second item, we have the X-Wing much closer to the Death Star. I'm going to try a different attack formation. This time we're going to go with a polar array. We're going to use 24 items, taking our original X-Wing and making 24 of them around the center point right there. So we're attacking from all directions at once. And then our third idea is we're going to work with a path array. So here is our single X-Wing fighter. We're going to be flying in as a formation in a tight spiral. And we're going to see how many we can get in here based on a spacing of 300. Alright, so this is our task. I'm going to give you a minute to pause the video, and then when you're all done, we'll take a look and see how you did. Okay, so how did that go? Pretty easy. That's all coming back to mind as you need it. So for our first array, that rectangular array, here's our TIE fighter, our X-Wing fighter. We want a 300 by 300 distance between. I want to see how many of these things we can get. Alright, so now our single X-Wing has turned into a squadron of X-Wings. Better odds, right? So, polar array, we took our single X-Wing and we went to the polar array. And for our center point, we picked the center of the Death Star. And now 6 is good, 6 is better than 1, but we're going for 24 items. Can we get all 24 around there? Oh, yes we can. And again, the odds have improved. Of course, I don't want you ever to tell me the odds. And our last one, path array, our single fighter is going to turn into a squadron, spiraling in toward the trench. Let's see if we can set that up as a path array. That fighter along that path with a spacing of 300. Okay, so looks good. Looks like we've got all 3 array subsets mastered, which is good. This one here, kind of cool, right? The following the spiral, and made me think of down at Jack in the Box. If you've ever been to Jack in the Box on Mount Vernon, you see they have the Jack in the Box head, and on a big sheet of plate steel outside the building. Here we are, courtesy of Google Earth. We see the idea of the Jack in the Box heads following a circular or spiral pattern on these screens in the drive-thru, right? So I don't admire the food very much, but I do admire the creativity that went into creating the graphic on that screen there. So we do a little creative arraying, in this case a path array. With a distance that looks good, whatever that distance might be. Or like in this case here, between a polar array around a center point. optimizing it. To match what we were looking at just a couple of minutes ago. Alright. So have fun with the file. It's supposed to be enjoyable, and then that wraps up our little discussion about array. We're going to have an assignment related to the array command. Let's talk about that next. So we have two assignments that work with the array command. One is drawing 7a, rectangular array, and one is 7b, polar array. In the rectangular array assignment, you're going to download this file here, and then you're going to use the information in your course pack to complete the file. So now this is going to be making a number of polar arrays. Okay, so let's have a look and see what we're aiming for. This is what we get when we open up. What are we shooting at? What should we conclude with? Well, in this case, the one clone trooper turns into a battalion of clone troopers. Okay, and then your job is to select the correct spacing based on the instructions. Set that up, don't move the original, and don't go outside the boundary. For some of these other assignments, I'm going to ask you to set them up in certain patterns with certain number of rows and columns, and your job will be to do that based on the distance from the center of one object to the center of the next object. And then at other times, I might ask you to do a little calculating. I might tell you the size of the box and say, hey, I want this much space in between to the next box, so you have to do the calculation. And that might be, in this case here, or that case there. You have to do a little bit of arithmetic to figure that out. Okay, so follow the instructions that are given inside the boxes. Fill the area of the clone troopers, don't move the original. So we're going up and to the left. We'll have a negative x distance, and the course pack will tell you what the spacing is. Here we have 6 rows and 5 columns. Again, let the course pack direct you to the spacing. 5 rows and 3 columns. 1 row of multiple instances. 1 row of this to the right. 1 row of this to the left. And then a 0.125 gap in between each of the boxes. Not 0.125 spacing, but a 0.125 gap in between. And then 3 rows, 5 columns. And again, the course pack will have your specific sizes and spacing. When you're done, drawn by, double click, fill in your name. Down on the bottom right, you've got the date. And don't despair, this is bottom right justified text, so whatever you type, 6/30/2020, it will just move to the left and accommodate however you type it out. Alright, and then you'll be saving this and you'll be submitting this to me, or turning this in if it's a face-to-face class, using the plotting instructions. The second assignment is B12 7B, working with polar arrays. Same idea. We will download the file that I give you to start. And you will open that up. Okay, and now we're working with the polar array command. So again, take a look over in the course pack at the assignment. We're trying to take the lemon slice and array it 6 times around the center point of the big circle. And then the fan blade, we're trying to take the one fan blade and make 3 fan blades, all going around the center point of the inner circle. Here we have 2 spokes that make up the hub to the wheel. I want to have 32 spokes total when we're all done. So take your 2 spokes and do whatever's necessary to get 32 when you're all finished. The clock. So for the clock, I've got numbers you're going to take the number 12 and array it 12 times. But you'll have to go in and change each piece of text so that it's the correct number at the correct clock position. There's also a long angle line. This will be for every hour, so you'll need 12 of these. There's also a small line, one for every minute. You'll need 60 of these as you go around. Our little sunburst pattern here, you're going to take the one line and turn it into 18 lines, but you're only going to fill in the top half of the circle. And then the last one here, the last one is freestyle. It's your own design. Create whatever kind of array you want to. You can array lines, arcs, splines, hatch, text, whatever. And the more impressive it is, the more likely I am to throw some extra points your way just for the effort you put into it. Okay, so these are our two array assignments, assignment 7A and 7B. In both of them, I'm giving you the file to get started, so you don't have to draw anything from scratch. Okay, and then same deal, down the bottom, drawn by, give it a double click, and then add your name. And then you'll be printing and submitting it according to the instructions for your class. All right, so these are our array assignments. If we take a look back in the course pack for the Unit 15 materials related to array, the first half of the lesson, we see the array command has 3 subcommands hidden underneath that little black arrow. It's a condensed tool with tools underneath. The last tool you used is the one that's up on top. So if you're looking for rectangular array and don't see it, well, it's hiding under the last array you used. Rectangular arrays are great for making rows and columns copied, like these desks and chairs. A little look at the array editing ribbon, what the different grips do. Our polar array, its main function, and then some of the options that we can turn on and off within polar array, and how the grips work. The next segment of the class is going to talk about working with raster images. I would wait to do that until you have completed all your array assignments.